Hi everyone, it's Corey again, and today we're going to be doing working with grammar, verbs, and tenses. So it looks like people are coming into the seminar right now. I see Annadelle, Beckham, Beth, Charlene, Chennai, Fallon, Isaiah, Jack, Jacob, Jelani, Jessica. More people are coming in all the time. Hi guys, good to see you again. I hope you guys liked the nouns and pronouns that we did yesterday. Today we're going to be working on verbs and tenses. That book that we're working out of, the Working with Grammar book, there's a lot of material in it. We can only get to a little bit of it each day. But if you're interested in learning more and doing more of the activities that they have available, you can always go to heronbooks.com and get the whole course, because we can only do a small fraction of what they actually have in there. But the data is presented really well, and there's a lot of really good exercises to do. All right, I'm seeing a lot more names in here. I see Siobhan, Nya, Oliver, Shristi, Jonathan. I see a lot of returning names and some new ones too. So hi, everyone. All right. And lots of people saying hi in the Q&A. And a good evening. You're probably over on the East Coast or somewhere else. So great, good to see you all again. Okay, so let's get right into it. First off, the title of today's seminar, Verbs and Tenses. You've probably heard that word tense before when studying grammar or hearing other people talk about grammar. And I thought we should probably say what these two words mean right off the bat. What is a verb and what does tense mean? So a verb, a lot of people might already know this one, because verb is one of the basic building blocks of grammar. If you studied any grammar at all, you're probably pretty good on noun, and you might be pretty good on verb. It's kind of everything else that gets more complicated. So let's go over what a verb is. All right, so this is our Working with Grammar book again, and we're starting with part 2 here, verbs. So a verb is a word that tells what is happening or existing in a sentence. Every complete sentence has at least one verb. So right there, if you're writing something and there's no verb in the sentence at all, you know that you've left something vital out. There are two types of verbs. These are action and being verbs. Action verbs communicate about physical action, mental action, or possession. Take a look at the following examples. These ones are action verbs. Austin ran to the store. Tony jumps higher than anyone else does. Joe found his sister in the gym. I threw the ball as hard as I could. Maggie eats salad every day. So each one of those verbs there shows physical action. You've done something in the real world, you moved your body, or you did something that somebody could actually see. The next one is another type of action called mental action. It's more like thinking or doing things with your mind. You're still doing something, but it wasn't a physical action that somebody could maybe see in the real world. So I remember now where I left my keys. She thinks about her grandmother all the time. Jenny considers that her sister is her best friend. The student decided to do a community service project. So these are all still actions. They're just mental actions. They're things that you did in your mind. The last type of action verb is possession. And again, to possess something means that you have it. It belongs to you, either for a short amount of time or all the time, but it's something that you have. So my uncle owns 2 clothing stores. I have a racing bicycle. Noreen kept the doll she had. She possesses a beautiful voice. So again, whether it's physical action, mental action, or possessing something, all 3 of those are action verbs. You're doing something in every one of those verbs. The other type of verb is called a being verb. A being verb is a word that tells what or how something is. The most common being verb is be. Another common one is become. Now that word be, there's several different forms of it, depending on whether something is happening right now, whether it's going to happen in the future, or whether it happened in the past. It's still they're different versions of the same word be, and we're going to see some of those right now. Anne is a lawyer. Believe it or not, is a form of the word be. In order to find out historically how that is, that would be a whole story. But be and is are kind of two different versions of the same word. Anyway, Anne is a lawyer. What is Anne? A lawyer. I am the art teacher. What am I? The art teacher. Each one of these tells what or how something is. They are programmers. The game was very exciting. Please be quieter. They were intelligent. Will Joanne become a chef? The woods became silent. So with each one of these verbs, there's not any action taking place. I am the art teacher. That sentence says something about me. It's a verb, but I'm not doing something necessarily to be a type of teacher. When it says Anne is a lawyer, the verb is, she's not necessarily doing something in that sentence. It's just saying what she is all the time. They were intelligent. Again, were is a verb, but you don't do something necessarily to be intelligent. It's sort of a quality that you have all the time. So there are some being verbs that tell what things are like or how they appear. Some of these are, here's a whole list of being verbs. Seem, appear, feel, taste, smell, look, and sound. Andre seems happy today. The canary appears to be ill. Kelsey feels that course is too easy. This pizza smells delicious. Now I want to take a quick stop right there and just talk about some of these being verbs, because one of the things that you might confuse is, wait a second, smelling something is an action, right? Well, yes, but this goes into a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, where you can't have words necessarily in a list and decide that they're always one type of grammar word. In this case, you could say, I smell the flower. Okay, I'm doing something. So that makes it an action verb. Here, if it says, that flower smells nice, well, what we're really saying is something about the flower. It's about the way that the flower is. It's a quality of the flower. It's not something that the flower did. If the flower was doing something, they'd be like the flowers from like Alice in Wonderland, where they can take actions. But anyway, in this case, the flower, if we say the flower smells nice, you're really just talking about a being verb there. Here where it says, that cake tastes great. So you have to ask yourself, what is the word tastes doing right now? Is it an action, or is it saying something about the cake? So the cake isn't tasting. The cake doesn't have a mouth, and the cake itself isn't taking a bite out of something. If I said, I tasted the cake, that's an action verb. If it says, that cake tastes great, it's a being verb. It's something about it. Ashley sounds excited. It looked good to me. Looked is another one in that list. I could say I looked at a picture, action verb. It looked good, being verb. It's really saying something about it, not something that it did. Seem is always a being verb, but the other words in this group can also act as action verbs. Below, you can see some examples of verbs that can act as an action verb or a being verb? They're going to give you two lists here, and they're going to show it as a being verb and an action verb. The canary appears to be ill, being verb. Ellen appears in the lead role in the new play, action verb. The cookies smelled wonderful as they were baking, being verb. The baker smelled the cookies burning, action verb. That board feels rough, being verb. You can feel how smooth the table is, action verb. All right, two more. That sounds exciting is a being verb. The bell sounds every day at noon is an action verb. You might not have heard that definition of sounds before, but it basically just means to make a sound. The bell sounded at noon. All right, last one. Your painting looks beautiful is a being verb. He looked everywhere for his notebook, action verb. All right, we're gonna go over to our workbook now. We're skipping over some of the exercises because we just don't have time. And we're gonna start with exercise 7. There's some example sentences here, and using the Q&A box, I'm gonna give you guys some of the sentences, and I want you to mark down if the verb is an action verb or a being verb. They give you two examples here. So you won't have the workbook in front of you, so you won't be able to draw arrows and everything, but this is how they do it here in the workbook. Underline all the verbs in the following sentences and draw an arrow from the verb to its subject. The subject here, by the way, is just the thing that's doing or being the verb. My parents are on vacation. Are is a being verb, and my parents are the ones that are being. They will be gone for 1 week. That's an action verb, and they is the person or people that are doing the action there. So, sentence A, soccer is my favorite sport. Soccer is the subject. It's the thing that will be doing or being in this sentence. So after soccer, there's a verb. This one's a little bit easy, by the way. Go ahead in the Q&A box, tell me what the verb is, and tell me if it's a being verb or an action verb. Soccer is my favorite sport. Now I'll go ahead and pull up that Q&A box to see your answers. While we wait for those to come in, one attendee says, I loved your last lesson. Thank you, I appreciate that. Well, I love teaching them, so. Before some of these answers are coming in, one person says, can you see us and hear us? No, for these webinars, you guys can see me, but I can't see you at home. The main way that we can communicate is just by you asking any questions or putting your answers in the Q&A box. Those are what I can read, but I can't see anybody at home. All right, so Kelly says it's a being verb, good job. Nya says it's is, and that's a being verb. Again, very good job. Fallon has it marked as a being verb, very well done. Laurel has is as a being verb, awesome. Jacobs has a being verb, Time has it. Jelani has is as a being verb, great. Nya has it, Shristi says is as a being verb. You guys are doing great, good job. Tons of correct answers here. Oliver has it. Jessica marks it as a being verb. Isaiah marks it as a being verb. Good job, guys. Everybody's got it right there. Very well done. All right. So let's go to the next sentence. All right. So sentence B. I played extensively for soccer teams last year. This one might also be a little bit easy, but I kind of like it when they start with the easier ones, right? Gives you a little bit of practice before they get more tough. So I played extensively for soccer teams last year. I is the subject. That means it's the thing doing the action or being the beingness in the sentence. But what's the verb, and is it action or being? I played extensively for soccer teams last year. Lots of answers already coming in. Good job, guys. Jacob says played is an action verb. That is right. Time says that played is an action verb. Good. Jessica says action verb. Another attendee here says action verb. Laurel says played is an action verb. You guys are on top of this. Good job. Mila says action. Kelly says action verb. Jelani says action verb. Good job, guys. So I think everybody has it right here. Jessica, Nya, Oliver, Isaiah. All right, good job, everybody. There's more answers coming in. I see them all. We don't always have time to read every single one. You guys are doing great. Very well done. Let's move to the next sentence. All right, so this one, it's going to get a little bit trickier. Sentence C. My last coach said that I had become an excellent player. My last coach said that I had become an excellent player. So there's more than one verb in this sentence, and there might be more than one type. So in the Q&A box, go ahead and mark if there's more than one verb, say what the first verb was and what type it was. If there's a second one, write down what the second verb is and what type it is too. My last coach said that I had become an excellent player. All right, so this attendee says had become is a being verb. That's correct. Good job. So another attendee says that there is a being verb and an action verb. Very good job. I don't see which one is which, so make sure you write down what the word is and then say which type of verb it is also. All right, Siobhan says that said is an action and had become is a being verb. Very good job. Another attendee says that said is an action and had is a being verb. So very good job. One thing that I think we're actually going to cover in just a second here, though, this is a little preview of a little bit later. You can actually have more than one word work together. So some people are already marking that down. That had and become work together. Had become is treated as one verb, even though it's more than one word. That's just the way English works. All right. Good, a lot of really good answers here. So Laurel says said is an action verb and had become is a being verb. Very good job. Another attendee here has got said marked as an action verb. Well done. Jacob has said as an action verb and had become as a being verb. Good job. All right, a lot of really good answers in here. Okay, so I think everyone is doing really good answers there, so we're going to move on to the next part. Yeah, so this is what we were just talking about a second ago. Sometimes two or more verbs can be used together to express the action or being in a sentence. Taka is achieving his goals. The verb is achieving shows that Taka is doing something. But if we left either one of those words off, it wouldn't communicate the whole thing. Taka is his goals. I'm not even sure what exactly that would mean, but it would mean something different. Taka achieving his goals, that's not really complete either. Is achieving, they work together. They snap together like two Legos and they're one verb together. Amy will sing in the school play. Maddie had been there all day. As he treated more and more patients, John was becoming an excellent doctor. There are several verbs that can work with another verb. Take a look at them below. The verbs that can work with another verb, there's versions of be which are be, is, am, are, was, were, being, and been. Here's some examples. She was going home. The boys were thinking about breakfast. The baby is being fed. That's a situation where there's actually 3 words. Is, being, and fed all work together. They all snap together and they create one verb that's showing one action. You wouldn't mark that as like 3 different verbs because they're not 3 different actions. The 3 words together all communicate one idea. I said 2, one idea. All right. Here's some more. There are several versions of the word do that work together with other verbs. So there's do, does, and did. John does read a lot. We did see that movie. Okay, yeah, so they just have does and did there. The word have has the versions have, has, and had. I have washed my hair. They had already eaten. You'll notice in that one, had and eaten are actually interrupted by another word, already. That word already, we talked briefly yesterday about how there are words that describe or tell more about. Already is one of those words that we call a modifier. You could just say they had eaten. But if you wanted to communicate a little bit extra, you could say they had already eaten. And here's some more. These can also work with another verb in a sentence. Shall, will, would, should, can, could, may, might, must, and ought. A few of these you don't hear very often in spoken English. People don't say shall or ought very often anymore. If you read a lot, though, you will see these words in older books. I shall sing in the show. You ought to sing. Those are words that are like, you just don't hear them a lot anymore. This might be the biggest day of my life. Sean could call on his phone. The little girl should never eat peanuts. Again, should and eat are written in italics, the little slanty letters, because should eat, that's the verb. Even though something comes in the middle, never is a modifier, because the sentence could be, the little girl should eat peanuts. Well, maybe she's allergic. So we want to use a modifier of never. The little girl should never eat peanuts. Even though that word never, which is a modifier, comes in the middle, should eat is still one verb. The last example, you must open that box. Okay? Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's the information on that. They already gave you some examples, but here are more. Sometimes you will see these verbs separated by another word. Will Arnie meet Betty at the dance? In sentences that ask a question, multiple verbs are usually separated by another word. In this example, the verb is will meet. Arnie is the subject of the question and not a part of the verb. The Dragons were clearly winning the game. The verb is were winning, which communicates the action of the sentence. Clearly describes how they were winning. It's a modifier. It's describing or changing or adding more information. And it's just the way English works as a language. It has to be in the middle of the verb there to communicate exactly what you want it to. The neighbors will soon be home. The verb is will be. It is separated by soon, which is a modifier. We did not see her there. The word not isn't part of the verb did see. It's a modifier that's making the verb negative or saying that it's something that did not happen. Some sentences have two or more separate verbs saying different things about the same subject. Both action and being verbs can be used this way. Here are some examples. Garrett swims, jogs, and lifts weights for exercise. That rose looks and smells like the perfect rose. The writer researched and rewrote that chapter 3 times. J.R.R. Tolkien decided to write a book and later became a great author. So these are a little bit different. This isn't where you have two words like is becoming that snap together into one verb. This is just that sometimes the subject of the sentence, like Garrett, can swim, jog, and lift weights. There can be several different verbs for one subject, one thing that's doing the action or being the beingness in the sentence. All right. So, does anybody have a question on that? I think one person might have raised a hand. The best place, if you do have a question on anything we go over, type it into that Q&A box and I'll try to answer your question there. All right. In the meantime, while that person asks their question, let's go over the next activity. We're going to look at some more sentences here. Okay, so we're going to just do a few of these sentences, but we want to spot some of those verbs that are working together. All right. Sentence A, will you finish your work soon? Let's do this one together. You here is actually the subject. It's the thing doing the action, the thing or the person doing the action in the sentence. Will finish is the verb. Even though used in the middle, will finish is still the action being performed there. So sentence B, we should be dressing and leaving for the concert in 1 hour. So in the Q&A box, go ahead and write down what the whole verb there is, even if it's multiple words. And if there are more than one verb, go ahead and mark what the other verb is in that sentence too. We should be dressing and leaving for the concert in 1 hour. What are the verbs in that sentence? Okay, so one attendee is asking, what is a verb? So the most basic definition of a verb is that you're doing something or you are being something. A verb is the word that just communicates that something is happening or that you are away. So yesterday when we were talking about nouns and pronouns are the things or people or ideas, and well, nouns are the words that describe those things. Like, we'll do some examples up on the board. We were talking about my cat Libby yesterday, that's orange. So if we said Libby ate the food. Okay, so what is the sentence about? What's the thing or person or animal that's talking about? That's Libby. So Libby is a noun. Now, what is the action or beingness in the sentence? The verb is really what makes a sentence be about something, because then you're actually doing something. There's like motion or activity. So in this sentence, ate is the verb. Because ate or eating something shows that something's happening. It's what you're doing. So when we talked about the two types of verbs, this is an action verb, ate, because you're performing some actual activity. We could also say, Libby is orange. So here, Libby is the noun again, but in this sentence, there's not an action. When you are a certain way, you're not doing something, it's just how you are. So Libby is orange. Is the other type of verb. It's a being verb. I could say Libby is happy, and that would say something else about how she is. Or Libby is scared or something. Anytime that the word shows the way something is, it's a being verb. Anytime it's showing something being done, it's an action verb. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so let's look at some of the answers to that last sentence we went over. Okay, so Laurel marks should be dressing as a verb and leaving as a verb. Good job. Should be dressing and leaving, says Siobhan. Very good job. So should be dressing and leaving, says Fallon. Very good job. Looks like most people are finding these. So should be dressing. Now another attendee here says leaving for the concert is marked as a verb. So I could see how all of that would be marked. But for, the, and concert are all actually other types of grammar words. Let's bring that up again. So right here, we is the subject in this sentence. It's what we're talking about. It's what is doing something. Should be dressing is the first verb. It's an action verb. And leaving is the other action. It's a different action, but it's something that it's an actual activity. It's something that they're doing. Should be dressing, getting dressed is one thing, and then leaving is another action. So it's a different verb. For the concert, we're not going to get into describing what type of grammar words those are today, but those are grammar words that are telling us more about like where we're going to be going when we leave, maybe why we're leaving. So we have different grammar words for those categories. But right now, for the concert itself is not showing us an actual action or a way that something is, so we don't mark those as verbs. All right, so a lot of really good answers here. Let's see. We have another question here from an attendee that's asking, what is a noun? This person may not have been here yesterday, or a few words, always okay to go over it again. In our examples here, the noun is a word that describes a person, a place, a thing, an animal. They're the words that can do things or that can be things or different ways. So Libby, my cat, is a noun because it's an animal. And Libby as an animal can act. Libby can eat. Libby can be different ways. So nouns are the words that are just describing the people, places, the things, the animals that do actions or be the beingness of something. I hope that helps. Okay, so lots of answers here. Jacob says should be dressing and leaving as two different verbs. Good job. Kelly says, I enjoy your handwriting. Thanks. All right, Nya says should be dressing and leaving. Very good job. Jonathan says should be dressing and leaving. So you guys are doing great. Very good job. All right. So the other word in the title of today's seminar was tense. Verb, we've just been talking about. It's doing things or being different ways. But the other word there, tense, it's used a lot in grammar, and we're going to try to do the simplest explanation of that word we can today. So the word tense comes from older words, but the simplest way to describe it is that the word tense has to do with time. You can remember that tense and time are related because they both start with the letter T. That's the way I remember it, at least. So if we were going to make a basic timeline, we could say that this is now. This is where we are right now. This is the time. Today, Tuesday in the year 2020, this is now. And over here, this is the past. This is where we were last year or last week or an hour ago. That's the past. And we're now in the now, or the other word for that is present. And an hour from now, or tonight, or tomorrow will be the future. So, like we talked about a little bit yesterday, grammar is all about communication. That's the only reason we study it. That's the only thing it's good for, is helping us communicate better to other people or understanding the communication coming from other people. A long, long time ago, in the first languages ever invented, the speakers realized that things could get very confusing if they didn't know when things took place. When we're talking to other people or trying to understand other people, just try to imagine for a second if there was no way to tell when something happened. If I just said, to use my cat again, if I said, Libby, eat. Well, there's a noun and there's a verb. There's a word that describes the thing we're talking about, and there's a word that describes the action that was performed. But the person that I'm talking to might not know, like, are you trying to tell me that your cat is eating right now, or already did, or that she needs to? So speakers and writers came up with tense, which just means the time that something is taking place. So let's talk about the verb eat. Eat is the basic form of this verb, this action. If you want to say that your cat or you or somebody else is performing this action right now, you use what's called the present tense. Present just means right now, and tense means time. So present tense means the right now time. How do we say that? You probably already know because you've been listening to people talk and you've been reading books your whole life, and most of the people around you know pretty good grammar. We just don't always know how to describe it. Well, is eating would be the present tense when you have one person or one thing. My cat is eating. Okay, now we know that you're talking about something happening right now. What if we wanted to talk about it already happening? We need to use the past time, or what's called the past tense. How do we say that my cat ate, but in the past? Well, you could say ate. It's the past form of the verb eat. And if you want to say that something's going to happen in the future, you use the future tense, the future time, which would be something like will eat. Those are the three simplest tenses: past tense, present tense, future tense. Now, there's a few more complicated forms of those tenses that I don't really want to give you the names for them right now, but you may have seen these before. And a lot of schools that teach grammar, they do jump right into these, but they can be a little bit confusing. I just want to let you know that there are other forms, but these are the 3 simplest ones. So if you've ever heard that there's more than 3 forms, there are, but the 3 most important ones to know right away are that there is past tense, present tense, and future tense. Now, if you're already wondering, how could there be more than 3 times? Because there's just right now, there's the past, there's the future. There's things happening now, there's things that already happened, and there's things that will happen. Well, you could tell somebody that something was happening in the past. Because when we just say past tense, like my cat ate, you don't know when they ate. Was that a week ago? Was that an hour ago? So there's other verb tenses that could tell that something was happening for a period of time. Like maybe it started here and went all the way up to the present. Or maybe you're trying to tell somebody that something will start in the future and continue on. If you are interested in learning about more types of verb tenses, we might have another seminar that takes that up in the future. But that's a more complicated topic that I don't know that we have the time or the interest to take up today. But if you're interested, you could always email us at events@delphian.org. That's events@delphian.org. And I'd actually be really interested to hear if you guys want to learn about that, those other verb tenses. If there's a lot of interest, we could probably schedule that. If you're not super interested, we won't bother. So just go ahead and let us know. So to finish it up today, we're just going to talk about one more thing. We only have a few minutes left, but I think we can cover one more idea really quickly. And this is something that a lot of people also work on in their grammar classes with verbs, and I think we can keep it really simple. This is transitive and intransitive. A transitive verb expresses an action being received by someone or something. That means that when you do something, the action is going across to something else. Intransitive, that word you can see on the screen right now, the basic form of in just means not. If you ever hear, or if you ever usually see in on the front of a word like that, it just means not that way. So, here's your very simple example for today. John kicked the ball. So we know that John is the noun that the sentence is about. Kicked is the verb because it shows the action. Now, did John kick something? Is the action of kicking going across to something? Yes. John kicked the ball. So that word transitive that you've probably heard in your English class before, all that giant word means is that the action of kicking went over and affected something else. If in your sentence it just said, Mary kicked. Like somebody said, oh, what did Mary do in the soccer game? Oh, Mary kicked. That's intransitive. Which just means not transitive. The action of kicking isn't going across to anything in this sentence. We could also have like a modifier here, like Mary kicked very well. That's telling you about how she kicked, but she didn't kick the well. That doesn't make any sense. Very well is just telling you how she kicked, but Mary didn't kick anything in this sentence. So in your grammar classes, if you study grammar in your English classes, and you talk about transitive and intransitive, it just means, did the person's action go across to something, or did it not go across to something else? So I hope that was helpful. I hope that cleared up a few things that you've studied about in grammar before when you're working with verbs and tenses. If you are interested in learning more about grammar, again, email us at events@delphian.org. We'll probably be doing more of these grammar classes next week. So I hope you guys have learned a lot today. I had fun. I hope you had some fun too. I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.